Welcome to Multifamily Deal Lab, where your host, Dave Lindahl, dissects recent multifamily deals done by his guests. Dave will extract what went right, what went wrong, and a number of key takeaways so your next deal may be more profitable.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to another edition of Multifamily Deal Lab. Today I've got two special guests, Bryan and Rebecca. Bryan, how do you pronounce your last name, Bryan?
Ayres.
And Rebecca, I often say she's got the best last name in the real estate business, which is
Stuelpnagel.
That
one.
Yep. And she is German, and she makes the best schnitzel.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I know. I actually don't know how to make schnitzel.
Well, you got to learn with that name.
I know, right?
Yeah. All right. So Rebecca, we've known each other for quite a while now, and Bryan, and why don't you guys just tell everybody how you guys get started, a little bit of a progression. You guys did a bunch of deals last year, but tell everybody how you get started and what the progression was, like really quick, and then let's focus on this one deal.
Okay.
And then how you guys, your partnership and all that stuff.
Okay. So we started in 2018. Bryan and I actually met earlier prior to that. We met through a business networking group, BNI chapter, and we were fixing and flipping single family. So we started in that single family world. And I was a realtor. He was a, home inspector and a general contractor. We were doing the single family flips, quickly realized multifamily is the way to go for better tax benefits, if nothing else.
Hold on for 1 second. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with me that the typical realtor agent's office is more like an adult daycare center?
Yeah, it is. The brokers are basically just, yeah.
No, I say that out of experience because I used to own a company called PHP Realty. I bootstrapped it. I started it from scratch. I grew it up to 26 agents, and I ran it for the first 4 or 5 years before I got smart and put a manager in there. And then finally, I got so tired of it, I was just like, I'm shutting it down. I'm going to focus on real estate education and doing my deals. But man, yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, it is.
So you guys met, and then you decided that you're going to go multifamily and talk about your first deal.
Our first year out, we started in 2018. We did 4 deals our first year, which was really exciting. We found our first one, fairly quickly off the bat, although I put in, a lot of hours, a lot of LOIs to get that first deal done. But we did the first deal. The second one was under contract before we closed on the first deal, because they were both in the same city. So economies of scale. And then we moved into one in our hometown and then another one in Texas later on in that year. So that was kind of our first full year out.
So you did 4 in your first year, 218. How many did you do in the second year?
We did another 4 our second year. We did, the second year, 2019, we did just a few deals, but we actually sponsored our first deal for another student. And so that was our main kind of goal, by the time.
I just have a quick question. Did you need a sponsor for your very first deal?
We had a sponsor for our first 4 deals. All
right. So that is, did you go to a sponsorship event?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So that is just awesome, because this is the progression that we see. We're one big happy community here, but we see people coming in with not knowing anything about multifamily real estate. You can do much bigger deals. We train you to do the bigger deals. Sometimes, some people are afraid to. So we always say, start where you're comfortable, get started there and then go bigger. But a lot of times you are trained at a level that's higher than you can actually qualify for. So you need to go out and get a sponsor. So what we see is people coming in like that, getting a sponsor for their deals, then doing deals. And then, sometime in the future, maybe a short time, but maybe later, then they turn around and they start sponsoring other people's deals. It's like the circle of real estate life. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So that's awesome. That sponsorship event. We're having another one. We don't have the dates yet. I think it's going to be, I think we do have the dates. Maybe Jeannie can tell me what they are a little bit later. But we had so many people that tell us that after Multifamily Millions Bootcamp, that sponsorship was like the breakthrough because that's where you get to meet all the sponsors. So that if you do get over your head in a deal, you got a place to go to get sponsors. And this year, you guys will be a sponsor.
Yes.
You come in as a student, and then a couple of years later, now you're on the other side and you're sponsoring deals. That's awesome. So 4 deals on your second year, and that's 219. What about 220? COVID.
COVID hit. We ended up with we were closing a deal right at that brink. Our College Station deal, And the lender bailed at the last minute. It was a bridge loan going into it. We had a lot of rehab to do. It was a plumbing repair. And the lender bailed at the last minute. And so we actually closed that one with a master lease.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
To get over the hump. So
a very little known strategy that doesn't happen often, but man, when you can use that, it's really good. So that's excellent.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a call just on that.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
We used that to kind of get over the hump. And then we closed several months later with, normal financing when the lenders kind of loosened up a bit.
Did you do any other deals during the year of COVID, the first year of COVID?
Would we do, Bryan, 3 deals that year? I think.
Yes. Sorry, I'm looking at my board. So we did cancel a couple of deals. We had a couple other deals that we had, right going into that. We had 3 deals going into COVID, and we dropped 2 and kept 1. We kept the College Station one. The other 2 we dropped just because of the timing and obviously the uncertainty of things.
There were so many unknowns back then. You had to be really, really, really conservative in your underwriting.
Yes.
To do good deals, but people were doing deals. You had 3 of them done, and then I understand the next year you did 12.
12. Yeah.
That's
including one. Yeah, including the one behind me. That's kind of the deal that we were looking at.
That's what we're going to talk about, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But we also, but to be clear, the 12 was because we also sponsored a lot of those deals. So a lot of those 12 are deals that we sponsored last year. Because we were at the sponsorship event and we've met a lot of people, and we lots of times we bring people along, and for our first sponsor, we brought in another GP to help us with the deal, and then on our 5th deal, we sponsored him. So again, it's kind of like you said, this progression of people who want to be in the business, they're not quite there yet, and we kind of help bring them along as well. So that's been fantastic for us. So,
yeah, I remember when we just recently met in Dallas, and I remember when we were talking and you said, we didn't want to do 12 deals. We wanted to actually slow down a little bit and take a break. But he said, these people that we agree that we would sponsor, and all of a sudden they're starting to come up with deals. We didn't want to let them down.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. Go ahead.
It's all about relationships in this business. So.
Oh, it is totally. All right, so let's talk about this deal. What are we going to be talking about today?
So this was a deal that was brought to us by one of our partners that we had done, properties with in the past. And it's kind of an unusual deal. It was completely off market, direct to the seller. And the first 6 units was owned by one person. And then the 12 units behind us was owned by a different seller. So they got the one property under contract and we closed on that. It was a little mixed use property, 3 retail spaces on the bottom and 3 apartments up above. And then once we closed on that one, we approached the next buyer, of the property next door to us. And because they were identical, just a match on this kind of little row. And we approached them about, selling to us as well. And because we had just closed on this property, he was open to communications, so we got that one under contract too. And then we merged them together into one loan on the property.
Why did the second guy want to sell?
Just because he realized what the first person, got per door, on the property, which to us was, really low. It's the properties in Red Oak, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. And, we, got it under contract for, a little over 100,000 a unit. And, he was completely happy with that. But, we knew because we had a property, about 4 miles away, we knew that we could probably get about 140 per door for that same type of property. So, we were excited, when he was, willing to, talk about that. And I think it was just because the other seller sold that now he was interested in, because everyone's always, their interest is peaks once something sells. What do they get per door? Could I get the same thing from ours? And we did.
So how did you say you came across this deal? How did it go across your desk?
It was through one of the partners that we had closed on another deal. He brought it to us and he was direct to seller.
Direct to seller. So did you use a direct mail campaign? How did that seller find the other guy?
He was, just reaching out to everyone in like a certain market area. He had worked with a, broker kind of in the past, and he ended up knowing that seller on the property.
Oh, how
So it
interesting.
was kind of like that individual, kind of relationship. So, and then we did not know the seller of the larger property. So we had to, do a little bit of, research there, try to get in communications with them. So that took a little bit of time to kind of get that second property, under contract because, we didn't really know, kind of where to start, but it was just mostly, finding the tax roll and reaching out. We actually talked to a couple of the tenants, for the retail space because they were in direct communication, with them to, kind of get that phone number and reach out.
Aha. So who made that call?
Our partner did. Yeah.
And what do you say? We just bought the property next door. Would you be interested in selling yours?
Yeah. And of course that sparked, their interest of, well, how much did they get for their property? Because they're all identical, to this same builder. It was just two separate parcels on the same row. So yeah, he was very interested and willing to talk to us. I think we paid $3,000 more per door for the second one than we did for the first one, but still completely worth it. And we walked in with a little bit of equity.
Just because you wanted a little bit more?
Yeah. You want to just do a little bit better than the other person, which is fine by us.
Yeah.
But he did give us a credit for the roof. So we ended up actually paying less, but obviously that's built into the cost. So.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So this is a mixed use property. So what are your all-in costs?
We ended up, was it 2.1? 2 point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.1 million. Now, is mixed use, is it still mixed use or did you convert those spaces? It's still mixed use?
Still mixed use. Yeah.
So what type of commercial do you have there?
We have a nail salon, a barber shop, a beauty salon, a couple of little clothing kind of outlets, like a FedEx store, kind of post it, ship it.
So what was the big difference when analyzing this deal because of the mixed use that you had to do that made it different from analyzing an apartment deal?
Just because for the retail spaces, in one of the properties, they had pretty solid contracts, but on the other property, they hardly had any contracts at all. So we were able to go in there and renegotiate with the larger property and change it, from how it was structured before to like a triple net lease. So, with automatic kind of increases in there, so we kind of, took that into account when we, bought it. But it is a little bit different, because your leases are generally longer, they have certain, restrictions in there and, so a little bit different than before, but, we love a good challenge.
Yeah. So the two major things that a retail or mixed use space has differently than apartments is the fact that you've got to take into consideration tenant improvements for lease negotiation, whether somebody else is coming in new or somebody's going to renew. And that's usually a pretty sizable outlay at times. And the other one is the probability of release, because, it's a lot less expensive to get someone to release their property and give them some tenant improvements as concessions than it is to lose that tenant. And then you're going to go, a certain period of time without rent coming in, and you got to face that probability. Right. So how did you handle the tenant improvement aspect of it? What did you factor in?
We've kind of focused on the upstairs on the rental part. On the downstairs units, it was built in 2016. So not a lot of work improvements that needed to be there. A few older air conditioners, to kind of consider. Like Bryan said, we got the credit for the roof on the larger building because that was the biggest thing that kind of needed to, be, fixed. But, our focus was primarily on the upstairs remodel, of the properties because we had a property down the road. We have 48 units down the road in Red Oak, and, we were getting $1,250 per door for those one bed units, and
how much were they getting here?
They were getting
$995, $950
for one beds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's like a $250 bump.
Yeah. So we knew going in really good, rent bumps, and they haven't had any sort of problems, getting that.
When you said you're 2.3 all in, does that include the repairs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So are the repairs done or are you in the process of doing them right now? In the process. So once those repairs are done, once the rents are bumped, what is the value of the property?
Typically probably about $160 a door right in there.
What is that? Do the math for me. 160 times. 18?
Yeah.
And does that include the commercial spaces as well?
Yeah, it does.
Same rents?
Similar rents, a little bit different structure, but yeah, same rents. Similar.
All right. So what's the total?
About 2.8 million. So when we bought it for about 2.1.
Oh, that's a nice return. And what, by the end of the year, will you have those done? By the end of the first year of the deal?
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet. So cash flow, equity bump, and a deal that's going to keep riding. They look pretty good back there.
Yeah.
How did you structure? Okay, so was there any, so you got 2 deals in one, you bought the first one, this wasn't the master lease. How did you buy that first one and then incorporate the second one into it?
So we bought the first one with hard money, not ideal, but yeah, we did buy it with hard money.
All right, explain to everybody the parameters of the hard money loan that you used in order to take that deal down. And the reason you used hard money was because you knew that you were going to get the other one under contract?
Yeah.
Okay, so explain the hard money aspect of it.
So, for hard money, typically there's a little bit less down, like we did, I think it was 80% or 80% loan on this property. And, it's a little bit higher of an interest rate, and it's kind of more of a short-term product, so it was up to a year that we had, but no prepayment penalties for getting out. And, so we just went into it with, hard money loan, knowing that we're trying to get the next property under contract, and then we'll do them all as one loan together.
What was the interest rate?
The interest rate was 7.9.
Woo, a little bit higher, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's typical hard money. I remember when I was doing hard money at like 18, 19%. I remember one time I did one at 22%, and my father, he was like, "You're paying what for that?" And I was like, "Dad, it's the same as credit cards, and the property cash flows."
Yeah. So the other thing too is it was actually kind of interesting on this one is we actually went back to our flipping days and reached out to one of our hard money lenders that we had used back then. And because we had a relationship and experience with them, they were happy to do this. And they've been calling me nonstop. And we really haven't been in that. They said, "Oh, we'll do multifamily now." I'm like, "Oh, really? We got one for you." And so it actually worked out perfect, with that relationship. So.
That's awesome. So there was no exit points going out of the deal from your hard money lender. What about going in? Did it cost you points? How many?
Yeah, point going in.
1 point?
1 point. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cheap. And was that funded? Was that funded into the deal, or was that due at closing?
No, just funded into the deal. So the hard money, because we've used them before, typically they're 9.9%. And 1 to 2 points, but because we have that relationship, we got 7.9 and 1 point.
Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so now you get the other one under contract, and what type of a lender takes on this deal? Is it a Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae?
No, we actually went with almost like a credit union, a smaller bank, in Red Oak. They always talk, about building relationships, and so this was a relationship with a smaller bank, smaller broker. But, they were willing to, because the one was under contract and the other one was already closed, they were willing to put that all into, one loan on the property, which was nice. So, and then our rate is 3.8 or 3.6.
Fixed?
Yeah, fixed.
Prepayment penalty?
I believe after two years.
2 years it expires? Wow, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then did I ask you if there were points?
On that one, no.
That's a pretty good local deal.
Yeah.
The great thing about the local, you get them a local lender and they'll do a deal like instantly, once they get to know you, and the financing is very quick, and they have local knowledge. I remember when I first entered the Huntsville market, and I was trying to create a relationship with Colonial Bank down there. And I remember sitting in the guy's office. I can't remember his name right now, but and I said, "Yeah, I'm looking at this property. It's 40 units. It's a rehab, and I figure I'll put in this much per door, and be able to get this much. And do those numbers make sense to you?" And he says, "Those numbers make perfect sense, Dave." He says, "But odd thing about that property." I said, "What's that?" He said, "A couple of weeks ago, those roofs were brown." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know, new roofs." I said, "So that's one of the pluses. I didn't put that into the rehab." He goes, "Nope, not new roofs." I was like, "What?" He says, "They didn't put new roofs on." I said, the roofs are black now. They used to be brown, you said. So they put on new roofs. He said, "Mm-mm." He said, "Did you notice the overspray?" I was like, I said, "No." I said, "You telling me they painted those roofs black?" He said, go back there and look at the overspray and you'll see it. And it just so happened that that was his way to and from home from the bank. So he saw it happen. And I, up in the Northeast, we wouldn't imagine doing something like that, and I never even imagined that, but apparently they do that sometimes down south. So that was good local knowledge. So I went back and renegotiated the contract for the roofs because the roofs weren't, no good.
Wow.
So anyways, local banks are good to get in with. All right. So let's talk about the financing for this deal. Did you have to raise money for this deal? If so, how much? Would you get it?
So we actually did this as a joint venture, and I'll let Bryan talk about that structure a little bit more. We kind of like our joint ventures.
Bryan, talk about what the difference between joint venture and syndication.
So joint venture. So basically, the difference is that on the joint ventures, it's just you're coming up with a group of people who are actively involved in the property itself, the day-to-day operations, weekly, monthly, however the workload is arranged. And then everybody brings something to the table. Whereas the syndication, from a syndication standpoint, we can raise the money and then we get paid for management to manage the property. So it's a little bit different. And lots of times the lenders do want us to bring money too, which is, is usually the case. Because this was a smaller deal as far as size-wise, and because obviously we have because we've been doing quite a few syndications, we have a relationship with a lot of our larger investors and a lot of partners who come to us and say, hey, I would love to be a part of this deal. Or we can just call them and say, hey, I have this deal. Would you be interested in X, Y, Z? And we usually get a pretty quick response. Because it is a JV deal on some of these, some people are more excited. But it doesn't, it just depends on who we're partnering with. And then this way also, because we are JV in it, we are partnering in the truest sense. We are more selective, or we get to be more selective on who we partner with, because we are tying ourselves to each other for the time frame of the property, and that's obviously a very big commitment, 3 to 5 years, which is more than most marriages. It's
definitely a marriage, though, when you go into a relationship and a relationship.
And you want to make sure that you have a good working relationship with people, and that you understand where they're coming from, where you're coming from, and that you have a good synergy. And that seems to be our best. Working on deals like this has been positive for us. So.
Yeah, and the best part about those JV deals, you can hold them for as long as you want. There's only a few partners. The least amount of partners, the least amount of pressure.
Right.
All right. Every deal has some big surprise, some hurdle that you have to get over. Just something in that deal made it difficult for a period of time. What was it on this deal?
Well, so for me, it was the fact that we did have to go hard money, because that was not our original plan. So that was. It sounds great after the fact, but prior to, we were looking to do traditional. We had reached out to the next owner, and they were so delayed in their response. But we kind of felt that we were getting some traction with being able to buy that other 12, because it would really make, I'm not saying no sense, but it really wouldn't make ideal sense to buy hard money on the first one if we weren't acquiring the second. Because sooner or later, because you're paying that point, and then you're having to do it again within 9 months, a year, or whatever the case may be, to then go into a bridge or a bank loan. And so we really wanted to make sure that so you're kind of like on the fence there. And some of the other lenders, obviously, once you acquire it, you're stuck for 2 years, so you're not able to put them together. And it really made a lot more sense to put them together. The numbers penciled out better with, it makes it easier too for us to sell. Mm-hmm. That was mine. I don't know what Rebecca's.
I was going to say, Rebecca, from your perspective, answer that question.
So from my perspective, it was probably the roofs, because the roof on the larger property needed, like almost a complete replacement, so we had to go, after, Bryan was out at the property and looked at everything, we had to go back out and renegotiate that, and kind of, try to get that worked in to get a credit, at closing. For me, the financing part comes easy, so I don't really stumble there. But yeah, when you're dealing with, roofs and credits and all of that, trying to get that was my stumbling.
When you told them that you needed a credit for the roof, what was the response?
I don't know. Originally it was like no, they weren't that bad, but we had that inspection report, done, showing them bad it was, really. And,
It's good ammunition.
It's kind of a meet in the middle, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. That is going to wrap up this edition of Multifamily Deal Lab. If anybody's interested in additional information, you can go to www.rementor.com or you can call the office 781-878-7114. Thanks, guys. It's a wrap.
This has been another edition of Multifamily Deal Lab. If watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, so you don't miss the next session, and review the contact links on this page.